Hey, what's going on? My name is Jack Lane. Welcome back to a brand new video here at the channel. Today we are talking about the Batman yet again. Some more San Diego Comic-Con international news. This was published yesterday, but I've literally just been like so swamped with video ideas that I want to do, and this is another big one, another big news thing, and I wanted to talk about it. So let's get straight into that. Could Mr. Freeze, Poison Ivy, and Killer Croc join the Batman universe? With the Batman Part 2 on its way, a VFX artist from the Batman responds to whether some of the Dark Knight's more fantastical DC villains may join Matt Reeves' universe following the success of the Batman. Reeves is expanding his franchise later this year with the Penguin TV show, which will then directly set up the events of the Batman Part 2, while Reeves' first film already introduced a handful of iconic DC villains from Bruce Wayne's mythology. Fans are always curious about who will show up in the future installments. In a new interview with Screen Rant to promote Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, home media release at San Diego Comic-Con, visualization supervisor Casey Pike, who also worked on The Batman, was asked if the franchise may see foes like Killer Croc appear potentially in The Batman Part 2. Pike doesn't see it as an impossible, but there may be challenges with some of those Batman villains, as he stated the following. As far as Killer Croc and stuff go, I don't think Killer Croc is probably a little far-fetched for that world. But the way they did the Riddler and Penguin in that movie totally felt like Riddler and Penguin. Even with Penguin, with his prosthetics and everything. I feel like there's a lot of characters that could enter that world. But Killer Croc and Mr. Freeze, Poison Ivy, maybe not. And then he goes on to ask, what villains do you think will appear? While time will tell who will actually be the main antagonist in the Batman Part 2, there are a few potential candidates that may be in the mix. After being introduced during the Batman's ending, the sequel could potentially feature Barry Keoghan's Joker as the primary villain. Keoghan even teased in late 2023 that the Joker may be in the Batman Part 2, but nothing official has been announced yet. Another Batman villain that would spice things up for the Batman Part 2 is one of the few but big organisations in the Cape Crusaders lore, the Court of Owls. The shadowy secret society was brought up a number of times by the Batman cast as villains that they would be interested in tackling in future installments. The Court of Owls would also definitely be easier to fit into Reeves' universe, tonally and conceptually. And the article then goes on to say, despite Pike's comments on the villains like Clayface, he has actually been rumoured to be in the Batman Part 2 as the villain, but there have been no updates on the front in a while. If Reeves wanted to take a more grounded path with Clayface, he could easily use the Basil Karlo iteration. Hopefully more updates on the Batman Part 2, including who'll be Bruce's next enemy, will emerge throughout the fall as they get ready to film next year. So I've actually heard it's coming at, they're announcing it this weekend. I'm expecting it, there's a panel apparently on, so I've heard. Haven't heard any different, so I'm still hoping when they're going to announce who the villain is for this movie. Maybe it'll be next year because it's still a year off from releasing. I think they already have their villain, and I think given the tone of the Batman, it makes perfect sense to do this story and do their own twist on it. I honestly think it should be Hush. The Batman, the movie as a whole, has been a very detective noir type of film. When Reeves was talking about it, he said he wanted it to feel like Seven, which was a Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman film. I believe Morgan Freeman starred in it. But Seven was one of the films that he watched whilst writing this movie and was like, this is what the movie should be like. A detective noir where the realization at the end is the villain is the hero. Even though the hero is the hero, but the villain feels like he's the hero. And that's kind of what happened to the Batman. The Batman, he saved a lot of lives. But because he was present, Riddler went the extreme. Now, I think Hush would be a better villain than, let's say, the Joker, who would just bring chaos. The Joker will probably be in the film. But I don't want him to be the main villain. Because there's so many other Batman villains you could do. I mean, Killer Croc, Poison Ivy, Mr. Freeze, we've already seen in film. We've seen Joker, we've seen Two-Face, we've seen Riddler already. Scarecrow, Ra's al Ghul, Bane, we've seen a couple of times. So, my idea for the Batman would be to do. Because Riddler they did in the first film was a completely different Riddler they did in Batman Forever. And I feel like Hush would suit that tone, or even Deadshot. Like, Deadshot's been in film, Will Smith played Deadshot. But, Deadshot, I honestly believe Deadshot is a villain that would be very good because Batman would have that mystery. If there's a man full of clay in Gotham, and it's been reported, that mystery element doesn't go, but it does. Because Batman knows, okay, I'm looking for someone who looks like clay. Of course, finding out who that clay face is could be interesting, but I think the story for me, it'd be better if it was Deadshot or even, Hush, where it's an incident happens and, something like that. Whereas I think the Hush storyline where Thomas Elliot dies would be a very good one. But then you don't make Thomas Elliot be Hush in this universe. You go, okay, so Thomas Elliot's dead. We're all thinking it's going to be Hush. He's going to be revealed to be Hush, and Bruce is going to go, but I saw you die. And then that was done in Hush. That was done in the Hush comic where he was killed, and then it was like, oh, he is Hush. That was interesting at the time because you were like, well, how did that happen? I think Hush should kill Thomas Elliot. Or even, they go down the same route. Joker kills Hush. No, Joker kills Thomas Elliot. And everyone will be like, oh, wow. And Bruce, still being a young Batman, beats the hell out of Joker. Like, breaks his teeth, breaks his arms, breaks his bones. Just destroys him and hands him over to the police as this man who's covered in blood doesn't really know where he is. And Batman goes, there. And Gordon goes, are you alright? He goes, he was a friend, Jim. Something like that. And it builds on that depth. And all the viewers in the cinema will be thinking, oh, well, he's going to come back because he's Hush. And it'd be a bit like Captain America Civil War. Civil War, the comics, at the end of it, Captain America died. And they just took the name. Boom. So you could take the storyline, put it in, but chain flipping on its head completely. And you could have Hush be anyone. But you have to make Hush be someone that the characters know throughout that story and be like, oh, well, he could be. You have to have about 6 or 7 people that could be Hush. And then you find out and you're like, oh, that's it. Oh, because the Riddler didn't have that mystery. Everyone knew who Edward Nygma was. Of course, he wasn't called Edward Nygma, was he? Can't remember his name at the time, but it was Edward something. And the mystery was, well, how's Batman going to solve it? And even like the Riddler's costume is more Zodiac Killer vibe. I know people are like, oh, so where's the mask? And he beat the first guy with a hammer, and that was the mystery of, well, is it Nygma? Because Nygma's been okay, he does the puzzles, but he's never been that ruthless. And it had that twist of, okay, it's not Nygma, but it is but it is Riddler for this universe. I think they should do something like that where it's Hush, and you're like, oh, Hush, brilliant, but it's not Thomas Elliot. And you actually, for casting, you put Hush, Thomas Elliot as Hush. Put the actor who plays Thomas Elliot / Hush. And you don't tell viewers who Hush is. Because it keeps the mystery alive. I think if they could do something like that, I mean, for Pete's sake, I'd happily be uncredited. I think there should be an actor who'd be like, I'll be uncredited to keep this mystery alive. Like, don't tell people that I'm playing Hush. Because if you tell people that a certain actor's playing Hush, you're going to be looking at that guy. Oh, well, I know he's the bad guy because the cast listings, it says he's Hush. So, I think that'd be kind of interesting. I mean, cast listings spoil movies. I try and stay away from the cast in general, who's on the cast. And I mean, like, um, well, Deadpool and Wolverine just did it with like all their appearances. You know, they just did like one of those. They didn't put them in the cast list, so just do that for Hush. He's the main baddie, but just do it for Hush, and don't do a cop out like Arkham Origins did, where it turns out it's the Joker all along. That's Hush. He escaped and Batman didn't know. Don't do that. Do something that's more interesting. Do something that people are going to want to see. And I think it would stay true to the Batman. And it would also leave the fantasy type villains like your Mr. Freeze, who had a really good origin story, but a very bizarre one. There's more fantasy elements. And Killer Croc, you know, I love Killer Croc. But I think saving some villains for the DCU, you know, them villains like Clayface, Mr. Freeze, they'd be better suited there. Of course, we now know that this is going to go beyond just the Batman Part 2, the Penguin and the Batman. We know there's going to be another spin-off, and we know we're going to be getting a third Batman. And we also know that there's like a 10-year deal with Robert Pattinson. So we've got him at least till 2032. And that's if he doesn't sign on for another 10 years, which I think he will. I think he'll be playing Batman till he's 50. 53, 54. Because I feel like they're going to do the origin, then they're going to do the Robin story, and then they're going to basically cap it off with Batman dying. You know, doing like a Batman RIP arc. That'd be kind of cool. The issue is, it also depends on who James Gunn is going to take as villains. Like, you can't do a Joker movie in 2026 and have Joker in it in 2027. You can't. You can't do a Hush movie in 2026 and Hush in 20. So the storyline they're going down, from what I read and what I know, is the DCU is going to be taking inspiration from Batman and Robin, the Grant Morrison run, before the New 52 run. So they had like 3 volumes and like 20 issues or something. Very good comic run. And I reread it every year now because I'm like trying to figure out what the story could be. But I think, you know, you can't use any villains from that. And James Gunn will be like, oh, I'm going to do this villain. But they already know what villain they're going to do. Rumoured to be that we're going to get the villain announcement this year. I really hope it's Hush. And if it's not Hush, Deadshot. I don't want it to be your Clayface because I don't think it would stay in. Like, Clayface can be in the Batman universe. In, like, Batman 4 or 5. And you like, he wants to do like spin-offs with like villains and things, and I think, you know, they should be able to do that. Honestly, I believe that this will outlast the DCU because there is so much hate that I've seen. I want the DCU to succeed, but there's so much hate that I've seen from it, so I'm a little bit like, I don't know. But let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section below, and, you know, hit that subscribe button. Drop me a like because it really does help the channel out. And also, what I want to hear your suggestions for where you want what you guys want for the channel. Do you guys want the channel to stay news articles, me talking about them, then we sharing our thoughts, or do you want maybe some more longer videos of like talking about like movies that didn't happen but should have? I have a load of movie ideas for doing that. And I'm just trying to find the time to do it. Of course, this week's hectic with San Diego Comic-Con. Got another video literally to record right after this. These are all going to go up. And then I'm going to be able to have a bit of a break until tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be hectic. There's going to be videos out probably every 30 minutes. Like, oh my God. Tomorrow is going to be nuts because we've got San Diego Comic-Con Marvel where I'm literally talking about every single film that's announced in its own separate video and my thoughts on it. So there's also been like a rumoured thing, and I wanted to do that, but I thought I'll just save it for tomorrow because if I do every single video now, and then all them things are announced, then I have no videos. So I'm just going to wait till tomorrow to see what's announced at Marvel Hall H. We've had some Marvel stuff on the channel, quite a lot of Marvel stuff. It's been, you know, very successful, some of the Marvel stuff has. Some of the DC stuff has been successful. I'm just trying to find what works here on the channel and what doesn't. but I want all of your thoughts on what the channel should be and what I should continue to do. So with that being said, I'll see you on the next one, and yeah, goodbye for now. And as always, stay cinematic.